Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough with the Phillies. We are at the start of spring training for the 2036 season, and I went ahead and unlike previous episodes, I went ahead and I just simmed through offline all the way through the off season, and I'll let you know why in just a minute. It was pretty uneventful, really uneventful. And the problem is, I mentioned last episode, we had that big collapse the second half of the 2035 season. Uh, didn't even come close to really playing 500 ball. The problem was offense, pitching, problem was everywhere. But one of the things that happened is the owner died. And I said it before, and I still kind of believe this. I haven't really seen an owner death in the game just immediately impacting the team. I don't think that's why we had that collapse in the second half. But what's happened is his son took over, and I guess his son has decided that Pop was spending way too much money on the team, and he cut my budget by a large margin. And we're in the hole. Projected that balance for next year is already negative. If I look at the front office, just the finances, we are in the hole. Like, what is it? Almost $3.4 million. So we had no money to work with in the off season. Wasn't able to sign any free agents. Wasn't able to make any trades that didn't give me like a rookie or some really fringe type player who didn't have a big salary. And on this team, I don't really have a lot of high salaries that I can trade away, that I would really want to trade away. I tried trading Madrak, who was that pitcher who 4-star pitcher, got great ratings, but he kind of turned into a bust last season. I couldn't really get anything that was a fair, balanced trade for me, so wasn't able to trade him. I'm really not willing at this point to trade Lohman away or Ma. I think those guys are just too key to this offense. Vargas, I think I may have thrown him out there and just didn't really get any good offers for him either. So pretty stuck with what I have. And the only thing I was really able to do, and we'll look at the offseason center, I think I picked up a couple guys in the Rule 5 draft that I'm hoping will be able to play and contribute on the team, but that's it. I mean, I'm really kind of stuck. I've got some young guys who I called up some last year. I'm going to give those guys a chance in spring training, see if they can win a job. But man, we're really in the hole. We're definitely in rebuild mode on this team, and have been for a while now. And there's no doubt about it now, though, because of the budget that owner's giving us. But for the offseason, we're in the negative 2.9 in terms of wins above replacement gained. I've had worse off seasons than that, honestly, and still come out competitive, so that doesn't worry me too much. If I look at the individual player breakdown, we lost. I did trade away Kevin Cox, but I just feel like he's given me much of nothing anyway. I traded him for this pitcher here who is now going to probably get a spot in a rotation. He looked decent in a limited call-up for Milwaukee last year. I just think that his individual ratings are really solid. 4 solid pitches. His control and movement are a little low, but at 25 years old, maybe he'll develop a little bit on that. And just I've got enough outfielders that Kevin Cox is not really needed at this point. And I was playing him at first base last year. I've got a couple guys I can go with at first, so I'm not really worried about that. We lost Medina, who was really unhappy with the team anyway and his role on the team. Lost Zach Rowland, who had a pretty pitiful year with us anyway and wanted way too much money to sign. And then we lost Prieto, Ood, a couple starting pitchers there that wound up getting big contracts for the most part in free agency. The Yankees gave Prieto, for example, they signed him for 3 seasons with, that's averaging over 14 million plus, and he did not even come close to giving me that kind of value. And then I think I'll double check, but I think Ood, even though he's injured, he was picked up by Milwaukee, and looks like they gave him a couple years, about a little under $6 million a year. So, considering that he's going to be missing half the season, I think that was a gamble I'd let them take. And then the guys that I picked up, I added a backup catcher in the Rule 5 draft. This guy's got, I think, some really good potential. Can also play first base, backing up. Good offensive potential. And then I picked up J.D. Cochran. I'm going to try him at first a lot in the spring training. He's got some good leadership skills. His individual ratings are really solid, especially in contact and avoiding Ks. So I think this guy has a chance, even though he's young and hasn't only played a limited time in AAA. His last couple seasons, 34 and 35 in the minors, were very impressive. And at 23 years old, if this guy gets some development for me, I think this guy might have a chance, of being maybe a 3-star, good offensive first baseman. And then the last guy, it was 3 guys I picked up in the Rule 5 draft. Another starting pitcher, young. All his ratings, except maybe for movement, look really solid. He's a potential 3-star from my scout. He's had 2 years in the AAA where he's gotten double digits in wins, and he's got good leadership skills. So with no money to play with, I think I did about as good as I could do to fill some of the holes that I have on this team. And so we'll go ahead and look at it before I get started. I feel like I am going to start Espinal as the full-time closer. He played a lot of the second half last year as a closer. My scout thinks he's ready to be closer. He doesn't have the stamina or that extra pitch, I think, to make it as a starter. So I'm hoping my scout's right and that he develops into that closer role. And then I think for the most part I got some decent balance in the bullpen. I'm going to have some guys I'm probably going to have to rely on who haven't played a whole lot of time in the majors, like Chris Bunker, Paget, who's a 4-star player right now. He's never really looked that dominant in the few call-ups that he's had in the majors. But this year I'm gonna give him a good chance. He's got a dominating fastball, good slider. I think he could be a good setup guy. And then the starting rotation is really slim. I know Madrak's going to be that number 1 starter. He's 4-star. His ratings are still really solid. I'm just hoping the last year was just an off year for him, and he'll bounce back. McSparron will have the second spot, which I don't like him in that second spot. I think he's a little bit more comfortable in like 4th or 5th spot in the rotation, but measured up against everybody, he's going to be the best. And then I called up a guy from AAA who was a minor league free agent last year, just to give me a 6th guy in that rotation for the spring and see if he makes it or develops, and we'll see what that turns out to be. Then looking at the lineups, Kwarteng is still going to be that starter at catcher. His defense, his arm's not that great, but I think his defensive ability at catcher is good enough to keep him starting. And then I'm going to platoon primarily between Cochran and Padilla at first. And I think Padilla looks really solid against righties. You can see those ratings are really good. But his defense is not as good, and Cochran is a lot better hitter against righties too. So I'm just going to try to give them time and see which one really outperforms the other, and that's who I'll probably go with as a starter. And then we got Ma solid at second, Lohman solid at third. Shortstop's going to be an issue. Van Single is a better defensive shortstop. His offense last year wasn't terrible at times, but I think Koopman is a much better offensive player. He's got great speed, good contact and gap power. He's not as good defensively, but still has some good defensive ratings in the infield. and he may wind up coming out of spring training with the starting role. And then I got Villa, Vargas, Tipton, who Tipton I think was a surprise last year, how consistent he was getting the starts for the full year, a batting average over 300, 19 home runs. Pretty good line from him. So I'm hoping that he can repeat what he did last year, and then we'll just use our typical backups here. I think Dutch and Cthulhu will wind up coming out of spring with the backup roles there. But that's how it looks, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and sim ahead week at a time and see how spring training shapes up, and hopefully we can stay away from injuries, but I don't really expect that to happen. And we're so thin. I don't know, any big injuries and we're going to have a hard time. And trade offers right now, they're just there's not much point in really looking too closely at them. So we're 2-1 so far, 3-1 in spring, and I'll take a look at it real quick. Yeah, 3-1. Let's go ahead a week or so, go another week or so before we start looking at what the performance is looking like. And I've noticed too, I've also got that Cincinnati Reds playthrough. I don't know if some of you guys might be watching that one as well. I'm kind of if the YouTube analytics reports are any indication, I think I really have typically get more views on this Phillies playthrough than I do on the Reds one. So I don't know if you guys, if you want to weigh in, if you're watching both, if there's one you prefer, maybe I'll start focusing back on this one. The Reds one has been pretty solid. I've simmed 4 seasons with Girardi as my manager, and I'm just GM only. And we're back in the playoffs. We've been in the playoffs 3 times out of the 4 years. And we're actually at the National League Championship Series against the Braves, which is I'm going to finish or at least keep playing that on the next episode. I feel like in some ways I'd like to stay with that playthrough until I get to the World Series, but I went in there looking for a challenge just to see if I could build that team, and I don't know. In some ways, maybe I kind of answered that question. I think we've got a competitive team going. I think there's some good upside, some good young guys that are going to come in. I think the team is set to be a pretty consistent playoff caliber team. So I don't know. Maybe I should just kind of focus on this one a little bit more, because this one, Phillies, is definitely a bigger challenge right now than that Reds one. So let's go to the news, and it looks like I've got an issue right away with Quaranting's going to be injured, but he's back to full strength immediately. That's good. And active career batting leaders, looks like Vargas is 4th among active players in stolen bases, which is good. He had a good year in stolen bases last year. But Perez, guy who was shortstop with us a couple years ago, and really I wish I was able to re-sign him. His average was down last year, but this guy is a good overall player. He's fragile now, but good speed, good defense. He's had a pretty good career. I think he's signed again with, he's going to be with Milwaukee this year with the vesting option. He's going to, barring injury, get over 2,000 hits for his career. He's already got over 1,000 runs, 405 stolen bases for his career. Pretty good career for this guy. So let's go back to spring coverage. We're having a great start, 9-2. I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the individual performances real quick. Won't be seeing a whole lot from these guys after just a couple weeks, but that starting rotation is looking pretty tough. Madrak, a terrible spring so far, 8.64 ERA in 2 starts. McSparron's look really good. Pacheco looked good in his start. Furlong, Hanibi, those guys not looking too good, but Lugo, the guy I picked up in that he was a Rule 5 draft, so he's looking pretty good. And then bullpen, got fairly solid. Paget looks pretty decent. Espinal's looking good in that closer role. And then for the lineups, so we got Courting looking good. Best not doing too well, but he is going to be the backup. And Cochran doing what I thought he would do, or hoped he would do. 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, a .333 batting average. Ma looking good. Lohman's struggling though. Koopman looking really good. He's such a big upgrade, I think, over Van Singel offensively. So I really feel like I probably need, even though shortstop's such an important position defensively, I still feel like I'll need Koopman's offense more than Van Singel's defense at this point. Villa having a good spring so far. I hope he stays healthy. Vargas, though, struggling. Tipton really looking good. .417 batting average. So let's go ahead and sim ahead another week. And trade offer here. This guy's got some great numbers, although he's fragile, and there's just nothing I don't think I would be able to offer those guys. And Luvia injured again. Even though I did go ahead and give him that arbitration figure that he wanted, which is $5.5 million. I didn't really cover arbitration either in the episode, but he is fragile. He didn't get to play a whole lot last year. After this season, I'll probably have to look for another option at left field. I just was giving up on Cox. I don't think that he was going to be that option that I needed. So let me look at what we're doing now. And career pitching leaders, Madrak, he is on the active list of complete games. He's second. So where are we now in spring coverage? We are 12-4, so having a great start. I know this is not really an indicator of what the season will be like, but I've said before I would rather play good than not in spring. And we got a trade proposal here from the White Sox, pitcher for Ma. There's no way at this point. And Ma is going to be an interesting case, I think, when his player option, the contract that I gave him, when that comes up, I'm almost positive he'll go for that and try to get a longer term with more money elsewhere. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll be happy enough with the team to stay, but I kind of doubt it. So we're back to 12-6, 13-6. And Mike Cochran, a pretty big free agent, he signed with the Yankees, for which he was with the Yankees last year. Was that just an extension? No, I think he was a free agent. Let me see what they got. The Yankees have put some money out there this year. So they signed him for right around a little under $23 million for 5 seasons. That was an extension, so they want to keep him around. Pretty good player overall. If he keeps up these numbers, he might get close to 500 home runs for his career. And I keep getting trade offers here, or they're not really offers. They're these would you be interested in, and I can never get those trades to work out right. It's almost impossible. So we are really still rolling along. Let me see what the news has out there. Sean Coriolan, a pitcher who was with us for a little while, he was our closer for a couple years, actually. He is still going strong, a 4-star pitcher. Could potentially start. He's only wanting $1.8 million. If I had any money budgeted for anything, he's a guy I wouldn't mind going for. Looks like a few teams might be interested in him. And Shibata, starting pitcher for Atlanta, is going to be out for most of the season. That might be a big blow for them. So let's take a look at spring training at this point. We are 16-7, so we're going to finish well above 500 for the spring. Some of the other teams doing well. Detroit, Oakland Angels, Orioles doing pretty good. Chicago Cubs having a good spring. Padres doing okay, but Pittsburgh struggling. Marlins not too doing too good, or Arizona, Giants, and then Mariners, Texas, and Boston having the worst spring of anybody, 5-17. So I think we've got 2 more games left. Let's go ahead and finish those, and then we'll look at the... No, we got a few more games left. How many we got? Looks like we got full week. So I'm going to go ahead and... Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sim through that week, and then we'll look at the individual play. So we're up top over the Braves. Now we're not 17-9, 17-10. So it looks like 18-10 is how we're going to finish spring in a 3-way tie for the best record in the National League East. The Cubs finished with the best record in the Central and the National League, 19-9. Padres on top in the West. And then Orioles, Detroit, Oakland, a really solid spring. Let me take a look at the news. Seems like I've come across his name. He's a pretty big prospect. 4.5-star, potential 5-star player. He's going to be injured for a little bit. Knock on wood, not a lot of injuries either for us or the league in this spring training. Now, looking at individual leaders, let's see here if there's anything major. I've noticed sometimes the spring leaderboards are a little bit out of whack. But let's see here. Whitney Woodruff for Baltimore, 8 home runs, led the American League. He is a very solid-looking young player, 26 years old. Fragile, though. But Tim Wright at Houston, 4.11 batting average. And then for us, Ma had a good spring. Cochran, 5 home runs, 20 RBIs. Madrak, 26 strikeouts. So at least he looked good there. But let's take a look at what we did in the spring. So first off, pitching. And I'm going to go with 12 pitchers. So that's how I typically do it. So in some ways, since the last time we looked at it, the rotation kind of settled down a little bit. McSparran had a few rough outings, I guess, as spring training went on. Madrak improved his ERA down to 5.23. Lugo didn't look too bad. I've got him currently in the 4th spot. Hanibe didn't look too bad. He's going to be in the or Hannibal, sorry. He's going to be in the 3rd spot. Between those two, I think I'll probably move that around. I think Hannibal should be in the 4th spot, and then Furlong, not too bad. Wish I had a better option, but honestly, put him in that 5th spot. He might not do too bad. Pacheco, though, did look okay, really. Had the best ERA of the bunch, but I think his individual ratings are so low, it would really tell if I played him for a full season. So I'm going to go ahead and put him down to AAA, and that's going to give me... So I got 10 relievers. I'm going to have to narrow this one down. Flores got a great work ethic. Didn't look too bad, but let's see. Lay, yeah, I think he's not ready either. And those numbers really showed it. And Flores, I'm going to give him a nod as well. Put him down. Salcido looked really good, but the movement scares me on him. I think he's going to give up a lot of home runs, be a high ERA pitcher, and Scout just thinks he's like mop-up duty only. That sounds about right to me. So that's going to give us, I think this will give us the 12 that I'm going to go with. Yep. So that'll be the pitching staff that we have. Not great, for sure, but I don't even have a guy who could really be an emergency starter here, unless I probably would have to use Espinal as that emergency starter. But he did look good, though, as a closer. I'm hoping that he'll be the guy I need there in closer for the rest of for the full season anyway. But I think on the roster, so I got 29. So I'm going to have 4 guys I got to get rid of off the offense here. So Cochran did look good. Good enough that I think he should be the starting first baseman. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll put Padilla in there every 7th game against righties because he does have good numbers there. Quartang's going to definitely be the starter. Put him I like resting the catcher every 7th game or so. Lockyer did not have a good spring. This guy is really close to just me giving up on. He's probably going to be a free agent at some point. He was a former first-round pick, a high first-round pick for me. I picked him 11th in 2030, and he's just not developed. He hasn't done much at all. It's kind of like Kevin Cox, just didn't really do a whole lot for me, and he's going to have to clear waivers. So Koopman, a good spring. Really did look good. Now Myrie is just a guy I had called up late last year because of injuries. He's not gonna be on the team. Andres, same deal. He's just hasn't developed the way I thought he was going to at one point. So I'm gonna give him a pass. I kind of like the way Stern looked in the spring. I mean, this guy is a pretty decent option either against righties or lefties. Has some decent power, good speed. Catula is primarily just, he's only good against righties, and he has great speed. His average last year in 184 at-bats, he hit 293. That's not bad. I just feel like he's more, I don't know, I think he might be more suited for somebody I can call up if I need it, from the minors. Dutch, I think I want to keep there. He's a 2-star player. He can play all 3 outfield positions really well. He's got good power, good speed. He's really wanting to be in that starting lineup, but I don't foresee that. So do I really want to give Stern more of a look here? Let's see what my scout says. He owns a glove, but doesn't yet own a bat. Dusty Stern. He's not expected to contribute at the big league level. But he had a much better spring, so I'm going to go ahead and give him the nod. So that should get me to the 13 position players I need. Yep, that's it. So I'm at 25. Let's go ahead and sim ahead to the opening day, and we'll look at how the preseason predictions look like. And player development update too. Go ahead and look at that while we're at it. So Ben Wright took a dive in his stuff rating, not too good. He's at 30 years old. Didn't pitch a whole lot last year, but he looked pretty decent. He's not somebody I'm counting on a whole lot. Madrak, his stamina actually went up. He's a 3.5-star pitcher though, but that stamina went way up. Eric Furlong, his control went up. Not too bad. I really wish he would develop that fastball a little bit more, though. Quartang. Looks like Quartang had a boost there. So he's now a 3.5-star with a 4 potential. So that's pretty good. Just 25 years old. So this he's not really even in the prime of his career. Shamar Bess, the guy I picked up, he improved a little bit in terms of overall rating. Lockyer improved some of his ratings, but he still had a poor spring. And then Cochran, look at this. Contact rating went up to 17 with an 18 potential. And he can hit, even though he's a lefty, he can still hit well against lefties. So some good ratings from him. he went up in power, potential power, and overall he improved to 2 stars. Van Singel looks like he improved a little bit offensively. Salcido, who is going to be in the AAA, he improved his control a little bit, but not enough. Roca, who's in AAA, Jeff Cordray in AAA, he improved a couple things. He might be a guy who he has some good offensive ratings and has looked good in his couple years in AA. He might be a guy who I could call up if injuries happen in that outfield. Let's see here. Luis Aguirre improved some ratings there. He's probably he's going to be at Reading AA this year. I think he will be in line to move up to AAA by next year, if not before. And Juan Castro, Luis Alvarado, Ian Norman, who's my big catching prospect, my number 1 pick or first round pick in 2034, second pick overall. He's still in line to be a pretty good offensive catcher, but kind of hope he develops the way OSA is saying he's going to develop. But he picked up a few ratings there. Most of the rest of these guys are just kind of minor league filler, though, it looks like. I don't see any other real big prospects developing much there. And look at this. Oh, I thought it was Kevin Cox. Mike Cox looks like he's going to be out for the year. So go back to opening day. And another one of those. Finish out today. And then we'll look at the preseason predictions. And then I'll probably go back to simming a little bit of the season, start of the season offline. Or, you know what, I might just do kind of a back-to-back and come back pretty soon with the Phillies episode and see how we start the season. So the owner is expecting us to stay close to an even record. So I guess with that budget comes with his low budget he gave us, comes low expectations. Top 100 prospects. We don't have anybody on the list. And it's been a pain point for me, and I've shown this several times. But our minor league that was a wrong report. Our minor league system ranking has been really poor. We have moved up a little bit. We're no longer last. We've got Ian Norman, the catcher I just talked about, and then a starting pitcher here who was a scouting discovery. He started showing up on this list. He's at low A right now. Had a good year at short season A ball last year. He's got some okay potential, but he's going to have to improve that movement and control quite a bit. And if he stays healthy, he's listed as fragile. I could see this guy maybe making it into the bullpen, but he has 5 pitches. If he had better stamina, he might potentially work into a starter, but I don't really foresee that happening. So now let's see if there's anything to note here. Bobby Austin, former closer for us, he signs with the White Sox for a couple million. Good to see that he's still playing. He didn't really pan out, even though he had 49 saves for me that one year, and he was the reliever of the year in 2031. A couple years later, he just wasn't the same pitcher, and really hasn't been since then. So let's look at preseason predictions. And we've got a pretty close race in the American League East, but they've got the Yankees a game up over the Orioles, Detroit winning in the Central, and Oakland winning against the Angels in the West. Looks like they would have the Angels and the Twins making the wild card with the Royals and Baltimore and Texas not too far behind. They think Woodley, who's that big monster player, first baseman for Tampa Bay, he's going to have another good year. Kinsler, same deal. They expect he's going to have a good year. Still a 5-star player, one of the best players I've seen in this playthrough for sure. This guy's won the MVP 3 times. He's a couple years away from 500 home runs and just 32. I don't know where he's going to end up, but he's going to have a really great career. Hall of Fame, probably first ballot. And then that's pretty good offensive numbers there. A lot of 40-plus home run guys. Pitching, probably see the same thing we usually do. 17 wins. Looks like that's going to be the tops, and that's from Stromain, who's won quite a few since he's been in the league. Zach Owenby expected to have another good year, strikeout-wise. And then in the National League, they've got the Phillies at 80 and 82, Braves and Nationals, top two teams in the East. Cubs winning the Central. They got the Diamondbacks winning the West. And pretty weak year here. Not too many teams, either in the American League or National League, expected to finish with a high win total. Looks like it would be the Braves, Cubs, Diamondbacks, and wild card would be Pittsburgh and Washington. And then individually, I don't see any Philly batters there. I do see Pat Dowdy, who's still pretty good player. He's now 3-star for my scout. Salinas, Molinar, those are guys I've seen quite a bit in this playthrough so far. Renaga, that big guy for Pittsburgh, just 24 years old, was MVP last year, 2 times that he's won it. This guy, like Kinsler, I think he's going to be just an amazing player if he stays healthy. And then on the pitching side, again, no Phillies showing up. A lot of the same guys. Clax for Atlanta. They're expecting him to hit 19 wins this year. He's won 117 for his career. Mann, good pitcher for San Francisco, expected to have a good year. Chris James, who Atlanta picked up, took a bet on because he's injury prone. They're expecting him to get 18 wins. I'd have to see that to believe it. They gave him a lot of money, $19.6 million, signed him for 3. I think his health is just such a concern that I doubt he'll get much more than a half season. I think he's due. He's had 2 full seasons now in a row. I just think he's probably going to start seeing some injury problems at 38. This year might do it. But if he doesn't, then that was a good pickup from the Braves. So that's how the preseason predictions look. Last thing I'll do, I always do this before I start the season. Look at that waiver wire. See if there's any guys I can pick up that would help the team. I do see quite a few relievers. This is a former Philly, Kevin Berger. Now, just looking at the relievers that I have, Ben Wright scares me a little bit. His movement's gone down. His movement. Mendoza still should be okay. Bunker, I wouldn't mind, honestly, picking up another reliever. Now, Burnick, he could be an emergency starter. Let's see what my scout says about him. It says he's a middle innings reliever. He's looked okay for the most part. He's got 3 solid pitches, good stuff. Movement and control are pretty good. He's equally well against, or rated equally well with OSA and my scout. Here's a pitcher from the Braves. Starter. I mean, this guy would really be a boost. Although his movement's a little bit off. He's going to give up a lot of home runs. Tim Allen, a good lefty to have. He's up there over $1 million, though. Kevin Berger, Kevin Lauderdale. Let me look at all batters here. Pretty good looking left fielder there. And Ezekiel Morales plays several positions. He's coming off a good year at Tampa Bay. Good speed. He's okay being a bench player. He's a righty. He would be a definite upgrade over who I have there right now. And then Rob Verdon. He's fragile though. I don't see him being much of an improvement over what I have. But Morales, I'm going to try for this guy. I'm going to try to claim Morales. Nope, it was rejected. I can't. It's primarily because of that budget. Let me see if that's going to be the same for the pitchers. If I tried to get Hartling here. Now, this one was accepted. So if that one was accepted, I think it was not Jim Allen, but I think it was John Burnick who was also looking at. I'm going to try to make a claim on him too. No, it was rejected. All right, so maybe that'll be something I can really play with. I mean, I might replace Furlong in that starting rotation if I'm able to pick up that guy. And then I don't currently have any lefties in the bullpen, so I could move Furlong to maybe a lefty specialist, middle relief kind of guy. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'll go ahead and end the episode for now, and we'll come back, and maybe I will just go ahead and leave off Simmons until the next episode, and we'll play through maybe a first month or so when I get back. But as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you next episode.